In my work, I have the pleasure of working with a lot of different businesses, and most of them are doing pretty well. But I do hear from time to time from CEOs that say everybody seems to be doing all the right stuff, everyone's hitting their goals, and yet the company isn't going anywhere, or worse, it's actually going in the wrong direction. And when I look at this, I think there's a really clear reason as to why that's happening. I wrote a book a few years ago titled Your Most Important Number. And as a result of hearing some of these things from CEOs, I've actually added an 8th chapter, which will be coming out any day now in a revision to the book. And the chapter is titled Why Sometimes CEOs Fail. And the subtitle is, Does Your Team Really Understand? And what I mean by that subtitle is, do they really understand how your business was designed to create value for its customers and for itself? And for itself, in my view, it's continually increasing the value of the organization. And in most cases, they really don't. Like, a simple question to ask is, how do you create value for this organization? And just wait for the answer. What do they tell you? And usually there's a pretty big opportunity there. And the framework that I cover in the new chapter in the book is really 4 areas that I get into. 1 is the business model, 2 is strategy, 3 is the actual value of your product or service, and 4 is your culture. Now, on the business model, let's really simplify it. It's pricing, right? So how do you get that perfect price? It doesn't leave anything on the table, but doesn't overprice or you lose out on anything. It's that perfect price. And then what are all the expenses and approaches associated with it to, produce the product or service? And then how much profit is left over? And then the really exciting part, potential for future profits. When you really refine and get this right, you pick up additional market share, et cetera. Do all of your leaders understand that? Second is strategy. And strategy can sound pretty heady. A lot of folks, I think, don't want to look like they don't understand it. They don't want to look stupid, maybe. I don't really know. But when I simplify strategy, it's nothing more than approaches to increasing the value of the business. It's that simple. And every time I say that in a room full of leaders for an organization, they get it instantly. What could we do to increase the value of the business? And then those become strategic initiatives. And then third, the actual perceived value of your products, the real long-term value of products or services with the customers. Do your leaders know what that is? In most cases, I find that leaders like their stuff a lot more than their customers do. Obviously, they're in business, so their customers like it enough, but they like it more than their customers do, and they're not really connected to what that is, and it's really hard to improve around it if they're not connected. And then fourth, culture. So, a simple definition that I've used for a lot of years, culture is what we agree to do and how things get done. But it's really what drives the attitudes and behaviors that cause the most value to be created. That's it. It's really simple. And I think what we all want is to have a culture of creating value. So basically, let's create a value creation culture. So do all of your leaders understand those 4 things: the business model, strategy, the value of your products and services through the eyes of your customers, and the type of culture that will create the most value to happen? And so I think the reason a lot of these CEOs aren't going in the direction they want with their business is that their leaders don't understand it, and the CEOs aren't doing coaching around that on a continuous basis. And actually call it nudging, and it should be continuous. Every meeting that we go to, when something isn't fully aligned to improving the business model, strategy, the value of our products and services, and culture, I'm nudging right there. And over time, the more nudging that I do, and I would encourage you to do this as well, the more your leadership team is going to be fully in alignment with these things. So this is the ongoing coaching and the nudging, and you'll have to do less and less of it over time, which will free up a lot of your time to do other things that could create a lot more value for the business in terms of increasing its value. And it will stop a lot of frustration. How come I have to make these decisions? Why does this keep coming up? Well, the more your team is aligned to these 4 things, the better they're going to be able to make decisions to continually improve each of the 4. I mean, that's really the magic of it. So what I would say is do constant nudging until you have to do less and less of it because you're just kind of amazed and surprised that people are making decisions like they're the CEO of their own role and they own the company. They really get how we're designed to create value. And then you've really arrived. They're actually nudging their direct reports to do the same all the way through. So this never stops. There's no end to how we can create value as an organization. And our job as a CEO, and by proxy, I would say the entire senior leadership team's job, is to continually and responsibly increase the value of the business. And in doing so, you go a lot faster when everybody is fully aligned, again, to your business model, to strategy, to the value of your products and services, and continually improving it as it relates to their job and driving a culture that causes the most value to be created. And it's pretty hard to fail when your senior leadership team and really all leaders in the organization are fully aligned to those four things. And as I think back to probably the largest of the 8 businesses that I've started from scratch so far, in aerospace, had about 500 employees, 64 leaders. And there was a lot of frustration in the early years. And as I started doing this nudging around these 4 categories, I went from 80 hours a week just holding everything together down to maybe 15 hours a week to hold it together. And I spent the rest of my time developing leaders and working with large customers to land bigger and bigger win-win, contracts with them. So I hope this helps. And again, I would start with that question I asked in the beginning of every leader that you have. How do you create value for this organization? And how do you know?